Okay. Well, I'm Leslie Southwick Trask, and I'm a steward with Bounce Beyond. And we play in the arena of accelerating transformation through different concepts, and two of which we're going to be presenting today, which is transformational catalysts, which we will be defining, and transformational systems, which we believe you're all doing. We're just going to put some language around it for you this morning. I want to also introduce my co-host, Ian Kendrick, also with Bounce Beyond. And we're going to start with an introduction. And so the introduction, I'm going to see if I can, here we go, get my slides up here. And the introduction is this. What, if you could say who you are, and, just going to do this. There we go. Say who you are and what is the idea that's most resonating for you as a result of being part of this summit. So I'm going to hold on the question because I like to see everybody well. So what's the idea that's resonating for you? And I'm going to start with, let me see. Trisha, are you there? Yes.
Yes, I am here. Thank you, Leslie. So excited to be here. I think the idea that is resonating, it's actually not an idea, it is a sense. And my sense is that there is a quickening that's happening right now within this community of communities of people who are really focused on bioregioning, regeneration, basically being more in touch with our places and with one another. So it's the sense of a quickening. Thank you.
Beauty. Okay, would you like to pass it on to the next one?
Somebody will pass it to Johnny.
Thank you, Trisha. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm calling from the UK. I think maybe mine is more of a sense as well, but what I'm feeling is just this deep connection to place from everyone that's on this summit, and a connection that you don't often sense or feel through virtual connection. But just that, how each individual seems to be so experienced and embedded within their local bioregion, and bringing that perspective and bringing that thought to this virtual space. And I think that's really powerful and a very, really interesting way of connecting to other regions around the world when you're sat in your own little box. I will pass on to Michelle.
Hey, I'm from the Western Cape in South Africa. And I think likewise, I think what's also come out, I haven't attended many of the sessions. I've been quite busy. I must apologize. But the ones that I have attended, I think also just some of the experience and the case studies and the knowledge that's coming really from a sense of being grounded in a place, and just the diversity that's coming through. I've really appreciated that too. Thanks. And I nominate Paula.
Good morning, everybody. I am Paula Veselowski. Right now I'm in Colombia. I think the idea that most resonates with me is connection and collaboration and working together. I'm going to nominate Matthias.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matthias from Ulm in south of Germany, Danube watershed. And as I had my microphone, my speakers off the last minutes before, my principle I resonate most with is to be able to just adopt and act on change. And hopefully this answer makes any sense to the question. I didn't heard.
It's the kind of question answer that could fit any question you want. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Do you want to pass it on?
Yeah, and I pass it on to I don't know, Haptivist. You were already.
Hello, no, I haven't gone. I just arrived, so I'm not entirely queued in, but my name is Michael Lennon. I walk on the Potomac watershed, which is the land of the Piscataway people, now known as Washington, D.C. A question that is present in my mind at this very moment, which may have nothing to do with the price of eggs. I'm actually doing a survey for people going on a learning journey together, and rather than using place as city, the political names, I was trying to figure out how to create a list that used tell me your bioregion, tell me your watershed. And if any of you happen to know a way to create that in a digital survey to get that list and make it easy for people to pick and become educated as they fill out forms. I know it's very, very tactical, very precise, but it helps people learn where they are that might otherwise just continue to say Washington, D.C. instead of the Potomac watershed. So yeah, I hope that was a contribution and not a tangent. Who else has not gone? Anyone want to raise their hand?
Why don't we go to Steve? Thanks, Haptivist.
Thanks so much. So I'm in a couple of hours west of Boston, and I have two feelings. One is just appreciation for the immense amount of work and what Ben and Isabel and Melina have really produced here. And the second one is a sense of emergence, that we're all pioneers in this work we're doing, and the emergence requires an explorer approach as well. And I find that that atmosphere very exciting. So I will pass it on to Francis.
Good morning, everybody. I apologize. I entered a couple of minutes late. So wanted to chime in also on what you just said, Steve. Also, it's been incredible, Ben and Isabel and Melina, what you've done here. And I haven't been able to immerse myself as deeply as I wanted to with everything that's going on, but I'm looking forward to watching all of the recordings. I am Miami, Tulum based at the moment. And Leslie, we met briefly with David yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before on the call, working on projects for cryptocurrency that the intention of it is to help regenerate Tulum with different initiatives such as NFT projects, a regenerative fund, and impact assessment and assessment of natural capital. And early stages of my regenerative journey, if you will. I've taken the regenerative practitioner course with Regenesis Institute, and I'm enrolled in their continuing education courses. I yesterday had a 2-hour workshop with Joel Glansberg, which was amazing. So just here to learn more and see where we can collaborate and go deeper. Thank you.
Great. Michelle, what's resonating for you?
Didn't she go?
Did you go? Did you go? Yes, you went. That's right. My apologies. So we're Paula. Are you here?
Paula went too?
I thought I didn't see. Okay, then
I think we haven't heard from Ian or
Laurent.
Laurent. Christine Laurent, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Morning, afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the question, Leslie. I guess one thought or one question I've got is, this place-based concept is obviously very specific to each location, and I'm currently actually calling from the Algonquin Nations place in Eastern Canada. and so those specificities are very important. I think we all recognize that, and we all want to connect to those specificities. Yet, our field of practice also needs some way, somehow, to mature, to understand the commonalities, at least, adopt the common languages and perhaps common standards. And so that's kind of the dynamic that I'm thinking of, that is at the back of my mind, is how do we reconcile both specific and collective standards and actions? Thanks.
Thank you. So I think we have Maddie.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm in Bristol in southwest England. It's just gone 2:00 here. And yeah, I've been to one thing so far, which was the self-organizing systems thing yesterday morning with Mario, which was really wonderful. And I'm part of the group that Isabel runs for Bioregional sort of community of practice in the UK, but I'm very much a beginner, so I'm sort of sponging what I can, just dipping in between other work stuff going on. And I think what I'm enjoying from what I've encountered is everyone's great ability to abide with not knowing things, not having answers, being in the exploratory, in the sort of the grown zone, and the chaotic space, sort of being with the figuring out, and figuring out how to be in the figuring out phase, and kind of abiding with that with a great generosity, and open-hearted, open will, open-mindedness towards each other, and the landscapes, the voices of the landscapes, very much present in the room always as well. So yeah, enjoying that.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I think Christiane, I think maybe we haven't heard from.
Thank you, Maddie. I'm currently, I now live in France, in northern Brittany, and I think there's lots of things I could say, but what really deeply resonates with me is this strong sense of presence and holding space whilst discussing all of those things we don't quite know, and all of this pressure on us to actually act fast whilst staying with and feeling our way into it. And I'm immensely grateful for this summit happening and all the opportunities that we all have to steal a bit of time from our working hours to actually be there and be fully present with you all. So thank you very much. And I like to pass it on to Jonathan, who I think just came in.
Hello, yeah, I just came in. What am I doing?
Just what's the feeling or idea that's most resonating with you in a sentence? Put it in a sentence.
Kind of really resonating with the idea of mutual credit systems, and having them be automated and how they exchange with each other. I don't know if that was it, right? But
Thank you.
Yeah, I just came in, so I'm not quite sure what.
Well, we're just listening into what's resonating with each of us. So okay. We're glad that you've added your frequency to the group, and that we're holding what you're just bringing in. So thank you. Ben, what is resonating at the most for you?
The idea that there may be some virtual analog to a bioregion, that some of the patterns of how we engage within a physical territory of a bioregion might also apply to this global community of practice around bioregioning and bioregional regeneration that a field that we tapped into with this summit that clearly was resonant based on how many people showed up and the experiences you've all named. And also that within that bioregion we can have villages, and that maybe there's a village that's actually emerging right now from the people who have really appreciated this summit and want to continue working together in some way, in particular to have another summit in 6 months, and also to do a whole lot of things in between now and then besides just bringing forth that summit, like creating an educational program around bioregioning that runs everything from the 101 level all the way to postdoctoral research, and other things too, many other things. What we just heard from Jonathan, for example. All kinds of ideas waiting. Like we have this fertile soil and we've planted some seeds and some seedlings, and now maybe a food forest is gonna emerge from that if we care for it as a village.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Ian.
Hi everybody, I'm Ian. Geographically, as I always say, I'm in the UK, halfway up on the left-hand side. Very close to Liverpool, but actually across the River Mersey from there. I'm part of the Bounce Beyond team. So what's inspiring me about this gathering, I'll call it that, is akin to something that Ben was saying, really. What you just said, Ben, really resonated deeply with me. Because I like seeing patterns in things, and patterns emerge. And as they emerge, you think, is that a pattern? Yes, it is a pattern. And then I also like the notion of participating in patterning together online, and specifically participating in repatterning as things emerge. And if you look at systems work, I look very closely for recursive systems where you might have a region which has villages within it, and so on and so on and so on. So yes, I'm very resonant with that. And the work we're going to explore today, this afternoon, where I am, this afternoon here in the UK, I think we'll touch quite a lot on that, on those very subjects. That's why I'm here. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Fantastic. So I didn't say where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the Niitsitapi and the original territory of the Blackfoot, which is called on current maps Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So in this light, I'm just letting everyone know this session is to go to 9:50 or 15 after the hours. If you think this was an hour session, it's a 75-minute. And I'm telling you that I'm going to talk really fast because we need more than the 75 minutes. Okay, because this is highly participative. So, and don't say, oh, it's participative. I think I'll just deke out. What I'm saying is that we need to stay together to really explore some questions. We would love you to stay together to explore some questions about how do we accelerate bioregionality for regeneration. I love that new verb, bioregionality, or bioregioning for this. So let me though go back to my slides for a quick second, and I'm going to go to slideshow and play from current slide. Oh, no, okay. So just that when you were listening in to each other, because we were talking about pattern, if you want to just put into the chat, what pattern are you seeing from the various insights that people were sharing? So if a pattern is emerging, what is it? And what is the perspective that you're hearing? And what power are you feeling? So pattern seeing, perspective hearing, power feeling. So whatever comes to your mind, just jot it down into the chat. So by the time of our close tonight, this afternoon, this morning for me, we will have explored what it means to function as a transformational catalyst. And in some respects, Ben, it's sort of like this is a village that can, in fact, transform at an accelerated rate. So
Leslie, I'm sorry. Can I slow down the acceleration 1 second? I only got 2 out of the 3 things you asked for in the chat.
Okay, I'm going back.
The slide disappeared.
All right, going back.
By the way, it doesn't all have to happen by quarter after the hour, right? We're not. One of the things about a virtual engagement is we're not all going home and leaving one another. We're all,
right.
So breathe. I invite you to breathe and do what you can do today, which might be less than you planned, but at a pace that we can take it in. Power.
Perfect.
What power are you feeling? Thank you. Little guerrilla facilitation there for all you art hosting folks.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to explore the frames of reference that we have found useful in accelerating transformation. And we're going to explore how do we accelerate bioregioning as potentially a transformational catalyst or a transformation system and/or. So it's about accelerating the work that you're seeing. And again, to Ben's point, it's not rushing through it. It's how do we hold it in such a way that we can see impact at a sense of speed that really our planet requires. I resonate with our very first feeling was that of pace and of the need to move on what we are now talking about. I'm just going to touch on this very briefly. We're here in this conversation about transformation. Yes, it's about regeneration. Yes, it's about bioregioning regeneration. Our focus is on the transformative element of that agenda. So instead of in reform, what rules should we create? What structures and processes do we need? We ask questions like, how do I make sense of this? What's the purpose that we're trying to fill? How do we know what is better? And so just to think about this, it's really about in transformation experimenting. It's about envisioning what logic could work, not what logic that would mediate the current situation that we're in. We're not trying to negotiate anything. We're trying to explore and open ourselves out to what is the field really saying to us around where movement is ready, where the soil is fertile. Ian.
Just that Laurent has his hand up, has had for a while, just to point that out if you can't.
Sorry, thanks, Laurent.
Yes.
Hello, Donna.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Ian. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt because it's all fascinating stuff. And perhaps I'm just preempting the next slides. I'd be keen to have just a very quick explain or definition of what you call transformation catalyst and transformation systems. Now, perhaps that's coming up, but yeah, I saw that on your previous slide. I was, wow, I need to understand that a bit better.
Yes, we are getting to that. And thank you for setting the groundwork for that question. Brilliant. So we're going to be getting into that. We're just now, and a catalyst is a way of organizing. And system is what does the catalyst create as the field for enacting the transformation. So just in a short form, that's what we're going to be talking about. So in terms of just this notion of transformation, it's the fact that it's complex, right? We're in a context of complexity. There's no predictability. You can't mandate transformation. It has ripple effects, like small changes that can create big effects. But it needs guidance in the sense of narrative and purpose and values, principles and patterns that we talked about. And it's human systems that are complexly, like they're totally wicked. Those are the socioeconomic, ecological ones that we are referring to. So we all know that transformation and the context of it is complex. So I'm going over to my friend Ian, who's going to answer your question, Laurent.
Then, Leslie, am I going to share screen from this end for this bit?
Yes, I can now stop my share and you can start yours.
Thank you very much. Just give me a moment then, okay? Here we go. Share screen. And if I share my whole, give me a second there. Hopefully what you see is a slide that says transformation systems at the top. We got that?
Yes.
So to pick up on the two questions, what are transformation systems? Let me go straight into this. And the slide after this goes to what is a transformations catalyst, okay? Systems, entities that are linked together in some way and interact with each other, and you can observe them. Is that one definition of a system? Something like that. Transformation system, you know, the notion of transformation is that when something is transformed, trans is to change and form is shape. Its shape changes, and the underlying paradigm of what is going on in a particular domain or area is what transformation is about, shifting that paradigm. It's different from other forms of change. Now, a system here, what we're defining as a transformation system, and just a little bit of background, Bounce Beyond has spent a long time researching transformation, primarily by Sandra Waddock and Steve Waddell, who's in the call right now, and uncovering these notions of transformation systems and catalysts. And like all good research, what I see is observing what has worked in the past, what has shifted and changed things, and abstracting that pattern out of that reality, and then looking to apply it in a new way. That's what Bounce Beyond does, okay? And the two key things we're going to talk about today is, say, systems and catalysts. So I don't like reading out slides, which means I'm going to do this one right now. So transformation systems, the ensemble, the collection of all of those initiatives that are aiming to radically change the status quo. The ensemble of all those initiatives that are aiming to radically change the status quo, the underlying paradigm of how things are done right now. And that may be explicitly they're doing it and that's what they say they are doing, or you might find them actually doing it implicitly by other things they do. It ends up changing the paradigm. So, okay, explicitly or implicitly. And we now call those T systems rather than having to write transformation systems all the time. So T systems exist around issues and geographies. Bioregions, yes, absolutely. Within those bioregions, there might be issues that we're working on, but you might have a major issue that exists in several bioregions, going back to Ben's point before about patterns. There is, however, a fundamental shift taking place here, which is this. The key mental and action shift of a transformation system is to go from an initiative, a collaboration, a network, or a movement to a transformation system. And we're going to go deeper into this notion of transformation system. But for now, I'm going to leave it there and look at what a transformations catalyst is. Now, I've worked in systems thinking and organization design and organic systems for a long time. When I heard first about this notion of transformations catalyst, I thought, yes, that's one of the things that's been missing, okay? Now, a catalyst in chemical reactions is a substance that enables a chemical reaction to take place, but doesn't actually change itself. And we had a debate internally about, does the notion that precise definition of catalyst apply to a transformations catalyst? And it sort of does and sort of doesn't, because what the transformation catalyst does is to actually help a transformation system possibly to emerge, or possibly to actually do its transformation work without actually doing the transformation itself on the ground. Does it change as it goes? Yes, because it learns more and more about how to be a transformations catalyst. So it stays as a transformations catalyst, like a catalyst, it doesn't change, but over time it gets better and better and better at doing that, okay? So that's why we talk about transformations catalyst. It's a new way of organizing. It's designed to catalyze purposeful transformative action by doing this, three things. One, connecting together those entities, those initiatives that we can see. So when we were talking before about villages, when Ben was talking about villages, connecting those together, connecting perhaps bioregions together, connecting perhaps issues together, connecting them and bringing them into systemic interaction. They connect and they interact with each other and they become a system. Once you've done that, however, once you've connected them, we have to help them cohere, to exist together. And coherence is about having internal consistency. They're doing similar things in similar ways, or they might be doing similar things in different ways, but actually they know they are part of a larger system, they can cohere. And lastly, well, not lastly, but amplifying, okay? Amplifying, when we use the word scale, it's so loaded about when you say we're going to scale this up, okay? That is so loaded. But amplifying is about taking a variety set that's taking place in a system and making that bigger, but leaving it the same, just helping it to get bigger and more effective at what it's doing, okay? So that's what amplifying is about. It does those, a catalyst does those three things. It connects, coheres, and amplifies. And it does that with the efforts of existing initiatives in different types of contexts, so that transformative impact be achieved in their target systems. And the role of a catalyst is to get better and better at actually doing this work. The goal is to help develop or help emerge powerful transformation systems and to increase the potential to address deep systems challenges. Now, those three words, deep systems challenges, are very significant for us Because what we see is pattern effects on the surface that are actually created by deeper systems that you can't actually see from the surface. And if you just fix the surface effects, the deep systems will make sure that those surface effects regenerate, because you haven't actually fixed what's actually creating them. So looking deeper is what is happening in an environment. Here we've got, I should leave that slide on there for a moment just to pause for a few seconds. And Laurent, to go back to your question, I hope we've now at least dived briefly into what a transformation system or a transformations catalyst is. We are going to go deeper yet, okay? But that's for now. Right, this is the map that we've got of bioregional regeneration as a transformations catalyst. We might see that actually we, in this summit, are actually, at least in potential, or maybe in the journey towards becoming, or on the road now to actually being a transformations catalyst, okay? And it's one of those things that once you're conscious of it, you can start to see the patterns that transformations catalysts actually do. If you're not conscious of the notion, you don't necessarily see the patterns, okay? Now, to help put context into this, one thing that we do in Bounce Beyond is we do a lot of futures thinking work. Now, particularly what we're looking for is a way of enabling those patterns to emerge so as we can actually see the patterns. Now, there are four different types of future thinking, generally speaking. You can name more, but we're saying there are four generic types. Up the vertical axis is agency, along the horizontal axis is the uncertainty. Bottom left, where uncertainty is low and agency is low, we just do forecasts. Next year is going to be the same as this year, plus 5%, or whatever it turns out to be. That's all you can do. If you go up the vertical axis, it's where uncertainty is still low. In other words, things are quite certain. The uncertainty is low, but your agency is high. You can do roadmaps. This is what tech companies do, software companies do. They have the resources, they know where they're going, they announce this is what version 9.6 is going to look like when you get it, and they develop it. That's a roadmap. This is what we're going to do, and we deliver against it. Bottom right is where we get into more serious futures thinking, where the uncertainty is very high. We don't know what's going to happen, but our agency is low. This is the world of strategic scenario thinking, as pioneered by Royal Dutch Shell. They may be an organization we're not too keen on these days, but when they were doing this work, they were very advanced in their work, headed up by a French person who burned incense in his office and had a Zen master, an Indian guru to help him. So, interesting character, okay? Now, the order of scenarios is we don't know which way it's going to go. Let's look at multiple possible scenarios and walk into them and see how we will behave. Top right is our area of focus, where uncertainty is high, but our agency is high of what we can do together. And this is the notion of pathways. And specifically, it's not roadmaps where we know what we're going to do and we're going to stick to it. These have to be adaptive pathways. Whereas we journey into the future, we get feedback via evaluation of what we're doing and how are we heading towards where we want to go? No, we're not. Correct course. Or correct the way we're behaving, because we're still on course, but we need to change our behavior. It's adaptive pathways. I'm going to look briefly at that. That's the work we do. I can't see all of you on screen right now. I can actually do that if I do this. I can see everybody on screen. There we go. Now I'm looking over that way because that's where my screen is with your faces on it, so I can see you. Okay. Now, I don't know how many of us are familiar with the Three Horizons work, but I'm going to go into it very briefly. The notion here of Horizon 1, that's our current reality. What do we need to do today to deliver what we need today? The current paradigm, which more often is the one that we want to shift. Horizon 3 on the right-hand side is actually where are we trying to get to? And it's as much as a potential future, it's actually an aspirational future of where we would like to be. It's one scenario of the future we'd like to see happen, which addresses the issues that we can see in our current world. And actually the question is, the big question is, that's all very well, but how are we going to get there? And that's what Horizon 2 is about. It's about the transformational journey. I'm going to go on to the next slide because actually the next slide goes into this with a pattern that we can see. Here we go. I'm afraid I've got two axes again, vertical, horizontal. Not all things start with that, but this one does too. Up the vertical axis here is the fitness for purpose of how things are being done, the paradigm. How fit for purpose is it? Horizontal axis is about time. Here is what we think of as Horizon 1, the current way of doing things. This is degrading over time. And right now, my suspicion is that our current Horizon 1 is degrading very rapidly. And is really not fit for purpose. That's really why I think we're all here. One of the prime reasons we're all here. But this is the role of the manager. this is doing its own timings, forgive me. Horizon 3 is the world we'd like to get to, and this is the role of the visionary, the behavior of the visionary. Okay? And the visionary role is actually designed specifically to enable this Horizon 3 vision to come into being. As always, the question is, that's all very well, but how are we going to get there? And here is Horizon 2. This is the world of the transformations catalyst and the transformation system to actually help us emerge out of our Horizon 1 and get towards our Horizon 3. There's something about one of these initiatives is that if we're not careful, it becomes an H2 minus initiative, which gets absorbed by Horizon 1 to prolong Horizon 1's life. We've all seen that happen with promising initiatives that just get swallowed and either killed like that, or actually absorbed to prolong the life, like I say, of Horizon 1. What we're really looking for is Horizon 2 plus initiatives, which actually have the independent potential and the capacity within them to make that journey and head us towards Horizon 3. And we're suggesting that transformations catalysts that generate transformation systems is a great way to actually enable that transformation journey. We use the notion of the this is doing its own builds, its own rate, forgive me. We use the notion of twin strands of DNA because those catalysts and systems have to have part of Horizon 1 in it and part of Horizon 3. This is not, I'm going to have to go back up on the slide and I'll go to there, it'll let me do it. There we go. This is not about tearing down and destroying Horizon 1. You will see that even right on the far right-hand side here, there's aspects of Horizon 1 that we want to keep. There's some good stuff happening in our current paradigm. It isn't all bad. A lot of it needs to be replaced, but isn't all bad. Similarly, on the left-hand side, parts of Horizon 3, pockets of the future in the present are already here. And when I look at what's happening in the bioregional work, that to me looks like a pocket of the future in the present. It's here now. If you have your vision correctly formulated, it alerts you to look for those things in the present moment that are actually representing the principles that we're trying to work towards. The reason for the sliding bar across here is a simple one. These are not sequential horizons. They are all present all the time at the same time in various stages of migration, various stages of decay, various stages of growth. And how where we are on that timeline can help us figure out how we might need to change our behavior to encourage the emergence of the world we'd like to see. Now then, let's look at what transformation catalysts actually do. Now, we said before they connect, cohere, and amplify, but actually we go deeper than that because we need to look at, that's great, but how do we do it? Well, the first thing in connecting is making sense of the system and seeing the potential in that system for transformation systems. And the Three Horizons work helps us do that by looking at the patterning of what we're looking for and then saying, well, I can see this sits there, that sits there, this sits here, and we can start to see the pattern. Once we've done that, we cohere, as we said before. We need to co-create transformation systems capacities, which is actually helping to define what the capacities are needed to actually generate one of these transformation systems, and then to identify actions to actually cohere it. There's a confusion sometimes between coherence and cohesion. Coherence in my world is actually about internal consistency of how we go about doing things. Cohesion is about staying together and not flying apart. Even though we might have minor differences, we're united around the common ethos of what we're trying to do. Amplification, first of all, develop systems, transformations, catalysts, do that. And then implement transformation actions. So those are the kind of activities that we see transformations catalysts doing. We see the deep systems challenges. These are the ones I was talking about before that are generating the surface effects. Well, firstly, we need jointly articulated narratives that actually reflect our shared visions of socio-ecological flourishing and values, the values of a commonly envisioned futures. That's a deep system. We need deep collaboration capacity building that brings the players together in a system so they can adapt and integrate key strategies for transformation. 1, 2. Here is 3. We need transformational metrics that assess the performance and effectiveness of the whole system, connected to active learning. And right now, what we're looking to do is actually to build into our work some pretty deep ways of evaluating what we do so that we evaluate not by the old-fashioned metrics with what used to be a stopwatch on a clipboard and measurements of how many things you've done today, but actually how are we doing in terms of implementing our vision and shifting that paradigm. Are our actions actually working? Okay, so looking at really profound evaluative practices. There's new forms of governance and organizing. Governance and organizing, deep systems challenge, that actually support the emergence and success of systems transformation. We need to shift finance to be supportive of system transformation. And the last one, innovation systems. We've just done a significant piece of work with the global seafood industry. What came out of their work with Horizon 2, where in Horizon 1, they're dealing with overwhelming complexity. In Horizon 3, they want to be totally harmonized with the planet. The answer to them in Horizon 2 was actually about innovation systems. We, as the facilitators of that work, didn't see it coming, neither did they, but actually innovation is fundamentally important. So I'm just going to go on to the next slide, because I'm very conscious of time. Transformations catalyst. It's a new way of organizing the efforts of existing initiatives in different types of contexts, so the transformative impacts be achieved in the target systems, and the goal is to develop and help them transformation systems to emerge, to increase that potential, to increase that potential to address deep systems challenges. Okay. Now, Leslie, I think this is the point at which I hand back to you. You're on mute, Leslie.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'll stop my share.
Yes.
And off we go. There we go.
So there's we now need to do something, right? Well, let's do something with this. So that's what we are about to get ourselves involved into. We are going to just, oh my goodness, why I did that. In any event, I'm sorry about this. I'm just going to do this because it's easier to get to the doing part of what we are going to be doing. See, there we go. All right, we're going to break into 4 groups. And one of the groups is going to be doing the actioning around seeing. And then breakout 2 is going to be doing sense making. And group 3 is going to be collective direction setting. And group 4 is going to be co-creating capacities. And what this means is that we're going to be using the questions that shape each of the catalytic arenas in transformation. And we're using the bioregion regeneration as our field. So in group number 1, you're going to be seeing the transformation system of how would you describe bioregional regeneration as a transformation catalyst? What have you been seeing, visualizing, and understanding about bioregioning if it were to be seeing itself as a transformational catalyst? What are you seeing as common ground across the bioregional regeneration field? And which stakeholders are visible and actively engaged in the transformation of this field? And which stakeholders are absent or not actively engaged in transforming the field of bioregional regeneration? Group number 2 is going to be looking at sense making. How do you make sense of what we're seeing? So what do you think is the emerging vision for bioregional regeneration as a transformational catalyst, a purposeful focus on changing the field? And what is the emerging narrative that is holding this bioregional regeneration field as an agent of transformation? Group number 3 is going to look at collective direction setting. What challenges are facing the bioregioning for regeneration from organizing as a transformational catalyst? So yes, we've had this event. Yes, there is the regeneration network, but what other challenges are facing the organizing? And what are you seeing as the collective action, collective, not individual, the system action on any one of those 6 deep system challenges? And the next group is going to be looking at co-creating capacity. What have you been seeing and experiencing as the transformational catalyst capacities that have been emerging? And this is leadership, organizational structures, the measuring, the change transformation capacity, the way you've been communicating and interacting with each other, the learning ecosystem that you've been co-creating, the resourcing that you start to see is emergent and available, and the advocating or active infrastructure. So these are popcorn ideas. So we're not asking you to go into these in a deep fashion. We want to get your top of mind ideas, and you have 15 minutes. And so I'm going to come out of stop share. And Johnny, have you set up the breakout rooms? Yes?
Yes,
Good?
we are good to go.
So what we're going to ask you is to jump into the breakout room. You will see in the chat the questions that are there so that you know what you're asking of, and just jot down your ideas or somehow hold them in space and come back to share with what you have come to in terms of your ideation after 15 minutes. So
okay,
questions.
perfect.
Off we go.
So the rooms should be opening. And Leslie, as your host, I can't assign you. So if you could join room 4, that would be great.
Perfect. Johnny, can you do the time piece?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very
about
much.
15 minutes, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. And Maddie and Killian, are you all okay?
Thanks. I'm being scolded for having thoughts, so I'll be leaving. Thanks.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
everyone? So who was in our seeing group? Can you just let us know who was in the first group, breakout number 1, seeing? Okay, so who from that group is going to just give us an insight into what emerged from your conversation, and just to let the group know very briefly what your question was. It was, how would you describe bioregional regeneration as a transformational catalyst, and seeing it, the common ground, and the stakeholder involvement? So who would like to share with us what emerged?
Leslie, I can jump in quickly. I guess most of the discussion was around the boundary of the system, right? And what do we define as a system? And I think there was still, it's fairly conceptual, right? The presentation you've had. So I think there were still a few questions around that. What is a system? What is a transformation system? But I think there was also some collective agreement on the fact that bioregion as a concept, bioregion regeneration is a strong catalyst or a strong enabler for systemic change. There was discussion about some specific systems, precisely, stakeholders within the systems, dynamic within the systems, and what works. Obviously, that depends on the specific bioregion we're talking about. So Frances shared about her experience in Mexico and Latin America, generally speaking. But yeah, I think we were still a bit grappling with this notion of systems boundaries. I hope I haven't misrepresented our views, so feel free to chip in.
Actually, I still doubt the initial setting that bioregional regeneration is a Horizon 2 element. In my opinion, it's a Horizon 3 element, so it cannot be a transformation catalyst. And we all want that it's Horizon 2, but I guess it's Horizon 3.
Very interesting. This we could have a whole conversation about that. That is very powerful. So thank you. So we can stay on and go to other breakout rooms afterwards to take this on further. But I'm going to move to the question 2 around the sense making. Who is in the sense making group?
If I could just add to a point that was just being made. The question was, is a bioregion activity a pocket of the future in Ian's language, or that exists like a regenerative farm, an example of the future? And then the question is, how do we make that to be the norm? And so I think that's the essential question. And that's what we're suggesting. A transformation system is needed to be able to shift an example of a pocket of the future into the new norm. And transformation systems and transformation catalysts are engaged in that work.
Yeah, I think you can make a distinction between bioregioning and bioregional regeneration, that a fully regenerated bioregion is absolutely H3, but bioregioning can be very much the work of H2 plus, and sometimes H2 minus when it's greenwashing. Like we talked about Monsanto coming in and co-opting the notion of regenerative ag. Actually, apparently they were among the first folks to use the term. Believe it or not, I think, or to popularize it, they grabbed it, and that's clearly H2 minus.
So I think the mention was about bioregions. In your own bioregional area, it can be an H2 in the sense that it is moving into that catalytic capability. So I think again, these are questions to ponder with the same intention. No matter what we ponder, it's to accelerate the transformation at the speed that the planet requires, not to race to the finish, but to move into formation that allows us to make the kind of impact that we hold in our principles and pattern. Okay, sense making. Who is in that group again? I just need to see hands. Okay, So who would like to comment about the emergent vision or narrative and or? Jonathan, Ben, I saw your two hands go up.
Well, I can say, you know, the idea that this is about hearts and minds as much as it is about structures was one of the things that was important, and that can set up a kind of a resonance. That it is also about many different kind of working groups and projects and some kind of structure that allows them to connect and collaborate and share, but that also has a lot of autonomy built into it. But that those structures can't be, you know, as you were naming so well in the presentation, they can't be kind of, here's the master plan with these 5 steps and everybody's going to follow that. That's how we built H1, the business as usual world that we have. It's not going to be transformational, and it won't work. I mean, nobody's going to, we won't be, I don't think won't be able to do that. So about finding common ground in the end, which is kind of fun to me because I was planning to play the song Common Ground this morning in Radical Networking, and did listen to it myself. It sort of showed up magically and synchronistically. I'll put the link in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. So anything else? Was there something else on this one that wanted to be added on the sense making? Yeah, go ahead.
Something that I also bring is that the cultural richness of the place, you know, the people itself, the cultural aspect, it's very, very meaningful to bring this attention for bioregionality approach, you know, and creating this common ground by creating dynamics and activities that it's not only to sense making and people start to be in this consensus mode. Here we joined to do something, to watch a movie about the subject, and then we create this pool of knowledge, you know, and trying to have some scribe, and then we share this in our meetings. So.
That's beautiful. So that's sense making in a cultural manner. So and in a cultural informed manner. And so this is a beautiful way of explaining that and expressing it. I'm going to move on to group 3, who was looking at the challenges associated with organizing as a transformational catalyst and how this field can in fact address in that kind of formed way around the 6 deep challenges facing us. Who is in group 3? Ian and Jonathan and Michelle and Jesse. Who would like just to give us a thumbnail of what came out of that?
I took some notes. I can put those in the chat, but I'd like the rest of the group to actually share their thoughts. Would that be okay with everybody? Would that be all right with the group? I did that? Great. There you go.
Jesse, are you speaking? You're on mute. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I think we should just read the short list of simple concepts. I don't mind them in the chat, of course. We should also talk, but
that's a great way of doing it, though, Jesse. You're right. So, as we emerge out of that list, what's sort of standing in your mind? What's resonating?
Well, that we have some major challenges.
Yeah.
I think we should read the list.
Yeah. I want to just ask the question about lack of collaborative skills. What do you think we're most lacking in that arena?
Probably the culture of just how to do it, like effectively. Basically, how to cooperate with other people is. Most people are not trained in that.
Oh, yeah. There's also the question of what to collaborate on. Whether to collaborate on responding to symptoms or trying to understand how to change the systems. Two different ways of thinking, and And I think it's been one of the great failures of sustainability that it's stuck so exclusively to responding to symptoms. And
yeah, I think the way social media networks are designed contributes to that type of thinking of thinking in terms of problem-focused mind rather than solutions-focused.
Mm.
Right.
I want to thank you for that list. It's a great capture. I'm going to just now ask group 4, who was looking at capacity building. And I'm going to ask Tricia, if you could describe what the organizing, at the capacity around organizing and how what has been going on in the summit actually has done that.
Thank you, Leslie. This was actually, I think, a challenging one for all of us. I resonated with Paula when she was like, I didn't expect to be in this group. But one of the things that I'm finding interesting is that in the Seeing group, you were talking about the 3 horizons and how it feels as if this is in second horizon and third horizon. But when we were looking, or specifically for myself, one of the capacities that I noted was resourcing. And the way that I'm looking at it is as a person here on the ground with, like, you know, no scientific degrees, no papers written, no, you know, anything to grab onto as far as showing a model that I've generated or that we've generated. I can actually resource our project and myself with those of you who do have that long-term experience or do have those credentials, have that publishing. And so it was this thing where I was looking at it as like the H2 people are actually the bridges to the H1 that allow those of us out here on the H3 to then bridge into the H1 through the H2. So if that makes sense. And then the one other thing that we came up with when we were talking about leadership, and Leslie provoked the question of what have you seen leadership within this conference, and how was it emerged?
Come on back, Tricia, we need you. I'm going to speak on Tricia's behalf for a moment, just because until she comes back. What Tricia was expressing was how the scaffolding of the summit provided the type of organic, emergent design that enabled people to come into the space and create what it is that they wanted. And that co-creative framing was powerful in the way in which her use of the term was the scaffolding that was done. And I think that's a really strong endorsement of how it was intentional as what we would call an emergent transformational catalyst to bring people into that co-development, co-evolution, co-creation. And so also, Michael, you were going to add something from group 4.
I think what came to mind as I was reflecting on the juiciness of our conversation was actually when Paula declined your question. You asked, "How do we blah 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 blah," and she said, "I'm not sure that we are a we," and in order to build capacity. That we are a we, but one of the questions that we were kind of clarifying is do we have the right vocabulary to describe what's going on? Because there's a period where, let's say, and I'm going to jump metaphors to relation building, where you're dating and you're just kind of in a bar, just, you know, hanging out with a lot of people, and to build a relationship, to build something, you know, there has to be a commitment to a marriage of some kind with somebody that then goes to a different level of what's happening in the bar. And so I just thought it was a very astute observation that as promising as the space is, that in order to move into co-parenting sprouting children and not just having, you know, hot times. There's a different we that needs to emerge from here, and that the space is fertile, but that maybe you said we were working on the vocabulary, and that, by the way, was for me the second biggest takeaway, the vocabulary of bioregion as a way of defuzzifying all the complexity of the planetary systems and bringing them down one level to where I feel I have more agency is perhaps for me the most important gift, and the one that I want to ripple forward in other places of my life. The idea of like, oh, it's not as unmanageable as we thought. That word restores the level of agency back to me. It builds capability within me. And now I can begin to invite others to go on dates around this that I wasn't able to do before. So that's my observation. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you, everybody. I know we were past our time, and I really appreciate your sharing on this. The hope was that we would use a language that could be helpful in seeing what's emergent in bioregional regeneration, and that while we can be feeling in community, is our community one that is impacting the type of transformation that we know we most desperately need as a civilization. And as an organizing frame of reference, we use a catalytic transformation and as also the transformation system. These are only terms to help us organize in movement together. And there's ways that we know how that can be done with acceleration. And I hope that this conversation has helped you with that acceleration wherever you may play. Any parting thoughts from anyone as we move to closure?
Thank you for your generosity in holding this space, herding the cats.
There also, this is Jesse, there also is new science on natural transformations.
Do you have a resource on that, Jesse?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat.
That would be beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And we have a resource list that I encourage everyone to add things to. There's a tab in the main space on Kiko Chat. Yeah, I want to thank you for offering this. It's and we've been intersecting and circling around each other and for some time, but I sense a real new level of coherence with what you're doing with Bounce Beyond and the work that's emerging out of this summit. So I'm really excited to see what happens next.
We're excited to be whatever we can be with whatever you are doing. 100%. Thank you, everyone.
We, not a you, right? That's part of it. Paula was asking, what's the we? When we may not know the we in the context of the larger movement, this virtual bioregion of people that care about bioregional regeneration. But there's definitely a we that is forming around this summit and who's showed up and who cares and who's committed to continuing to hold this space and work with what's emerging. I sense that you are a part of that we, as are many people here. Not everyone. We had over 1,000 people register. But stay tuned for more invitations, which will be coming during tomorrow's plenaries, among other things, and in emails.
Fabulous. So 3 words: connect, cohere, and amplify. That is what this is all about. So thank you so much for sharing time with us. It's just so beautiful to have your energy, your space, the ideas, and what I feel is that the deep-hearted collaboration. Language can somewhat defy it, but the heart understands collaboration, and I experienced it throughout our time together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta go. Great to see everybody. Bye. I gotta go.
Stop everyone. Thank you.
You.
Stop the recording.